Hi, welcome back to CS170 full session. We're at the last part of the introduction to Excel. So this is a second slide, set of slides, which I'll post out shortly. So let's come on back up to the top here. And you have like these topics here, and a lot of these you probably have remembered from the prior lectures that we did. They'll also be covered in the recitations that will be coming up. So I know right now for recitations this week, you'll be covering the last bits of JavaScript, but then the recitations going forward, you'll be picking up on some of the drill down into the various Excel topics. But these are the main things. So it's good for reference. Make sure you go through all of these and you understand how each of these things work, whether it's these functions, how each of these functions work. These are other functions. Remember the last lecture, we talked about and or not. We talked about the COUNTIF, right? So go through these, make sure there's anything that you don't understand, make sure you let us know. Okay, so right now we're going to be talking more about functions here. And I've alluded to this in other lectures where if you think about this in Excel, kind of similar to what you've already seen in your JavaScript, right? So you remember the function that we did for converting temperature in JavaScript, where you have arguments that you're passing in potentially. You have your function name, obviously, over here. And so in this case, we have a convert Celsius to Fahrenheit, and then you're going to pass in your temperature in Celsius, and out will come out something for Fahrenheit. So in Excel, you have a function name, right? And then you have some arguments, right? So you remember the last few lectures, we were talking about things like sum and count and whatnot, right? So you have some more here. Like I said, the sum is pretty common, right? You probably do a lot of the sums here, okay? And remember what I was kind of telling you, like in this case, we're doing a sum, you're doing a range, right? In this case, cell A1 to C42, but you could be looking at individual values. I can say like A1, A3, A5, whatever. Probably the fastest way for me to get those values in is I just kind of click around using the control key. So I do control blah, blah, and, multi-select across any number of cells. And then I close it off with the closed parentheses, and then the sum will pick up all of those values. All right, now, like I said, most of the time it's pretty common to do it this way, but I do mention the multi-select because you're going to have to do that for your homework assignment in Excel. So remember that, keep that in mind. Control click to select multiple values, or you can just type in the values one by one. That's up to you, right? I just think it's faster for you to do a control click with your mouse, okay? All right. So here's a bit, I think I kind of scrolled across for like the formulas last time. And then you can kind of see how it kind of breaks it down a little bit here, a little bit here. So let's see if we can do something here. Okay, so we have formulas. Remember this part here. And well, let's see what recently used was. Well, I did an average here recently, right? And so this is kind of similar to what we have here, right? It's almost kind of giving you some extra information here so you can understand like what are we doing here, right? In this case, we're talking about cell range J4 to J43. Okay, so what is that? This is over here. This is J. I got some of these extra little things here. And we're down here like so. Where's my formula at? Formula, somebody do that again, recently used, and then we do average. And we got, was it I4 to 47? Okay, so we kind of picked up over here somewhere, but doesn't matter. We can change this, right? So let me see. Let's do I3 to, what is this, I6, right? So I3 and I6. Okay. Well, there's 2 10s and 2 5s, so not that exciting, but I guess you're going to get this average here, which makes sense. You can do that in your head, right? 7.5. But it gives you like these little extra tidbits here, right? It tells you it's returning the average or the arithmetic mean of the arguments. And then the numbers can be regular numbers, arrays, references, and so on and so forth, right? And then it's telling you the formula result of 7.5, right? Which is like here, okay? So I'm gonna click okay here, and I ended up with this result here, but let's forget about this. I'm gonna clear this one here. So that's kind of a clicky way to do it. You kind of click on this and you click on one of your functions here. And I've demonstrated this in other videos where once you get the hang of it, a couple of these things, you can do something like this, average, like that. And then, of course, it still tells you the same thing, right? Number one, number two, so on and so forth, right? So I select the range, which is nice and easy here, like that. And boom, right? You got that. Likewise, remember before I was telling you, you can do multi-select, right? So I'm gonna do again, you don't see it on my keyboard, but I'm hitting Control, and then I'm hitting left mouse click to click the I3 and I5. I just want to average those two. Actually, you know what? Let me click on that. And you get 6.67. Okay, and that's the average here. See, over here, you don't see the range. You see I3, I5, I6. Again, pay attention here. Remember, you're going to have to remember how to do this for your assignment. Okay, so let me clear this out. All right. So again, we're back to formulas here. So here's all your formula tabs here. This is an interesting bit here where it says show formulas. So we're here at the formulas, and then you can see show formulas up here. Okay, and notice you can do a control tilde. You can't really quite see it that well on here. But yeah, you don't have to click this button. You can do a control tilde to show your formula. So let me see here. So control and tilde like that. Okay, so I don't know about your keyboards, but at least on my keyboard, of course, the control button is at the bottom, right? Either on your bottom left or the bottom kind of towards the right. Depends if you have a numeric keypad or something to the right. And then your tilde is at the top left, just below your escape key. For a lot of keyboards, it probably looks like that, but otherwise, look for a tilde somewhere. Okay. Tilde, if you don't know, that's like that curly thing, or it's a backward apostrophe. That's like on the same key also, right? But look at this. All the formulas are displayed now, like this, right? So when your TAs are actually grading your Excel assignments, this is what they'll do. They'll take your sheet, do a control tilde to display all the formulas, right? Because presumably if you have the right formulas, then your result should be correct, right? So we're not really looking for the value. We're really looking for these formulas to make sure the formulas are correct. So that's how they're going to do your grading, okay? And you can see down here, we have the examples covering like the various types of count, right? You remember, I forgot which lecture it was a little earlier. We talked about, counting blanks. We have the conditional, right? So count if, right? In this case, for greater than 50, stuff like that, right? And don't worry, I'll be uploading this sheet up into the resources in the module, so you'll see that, okay? Let me get back out of this, go back to normal, right? So now we're back to the values here. Okay, but same thing, you don't have to do control tilde. You can just click on the show formulas here. Let me do that while I'm here. So control show formulas, same thing. Okay. So either way, you want to show the formulas, you can do that. That's kind of nice when you're doing like a fairly large sheet with a whole bunch of formulas in it. It's a good way for you to spot check and see if there's anything messed up. Okay. So this just kind of shows you the formulas getting displayed here. Okay. I believe at the end of last lecture, we did talk about the if, right? The conditionals, right? So in this case, we're saying if you're testing for whatever you're testing, right? This is called the logical test, which is like the first part of this. The second part of this is saying if it's true, if this conditional evaluates to true, then do this, right? Display whatever, display yes or something, right? True, display true. And then this extra bracket here means false. You don't have to do anything if it's false, but if you do want to do something, you can say, well, display false, right? So in this case, they're saying, oh, if it's A2 is greater than B2, you kind of display over budget. Otherwise, you're going to display okay. Okay. In this case, you're comparing A4 to 500. If it is, then the output you're going to display is B4 minus A4. Okay. So this kind of something that we covered in the last lecture, so I won't spend too much time on it. Your TAs are also going to do examples of this in the recitation. Okay. But this is an example. This is not in the sheet, but if you look here on the right-hand side, it's basically the same thing, right? Just changing over to different rows here. But so what is it looking at? Well, it's saying if it's A14, right? A14 is this first column right here. If that is less than $E.12, okay? Well, $E, $12, actually. Then, you should order it. Otherwise, you're okay. Okay. So what is E dollar? E $12 is this number 75. So this is an absolute reference, both on the row and a column, because you're locking in this E12. That's why you have $1 here and $1 here. Okay. So all of these quantities, no matter which row you're looking at, is all going to compare to E12 to see whether you fall below that level. Right. Nicely, it actually highlights these guys if they're red. Right. So in this case, you can see it's 35, right? A15 is 35. It's less than 75. So that means it's time to do an order. Okay. Otherwise, you're going to display okay. And that's what all of these are. Okay. So this is basic example of how like the conditional checking will work. You remember the last lecture we talked about within this checking, you don't have to just check one thing. You can check multiple things. How would you do that? You would use like an and check in there or a or check in there. Remember what happens with the and remember what happens with the or. Okay. So this is the last lecture for this week for Introduction for Excel. I'm going to put out there for extra credit. Hopefully it's very easy and very quick. You see this this is basically a gardening inventory of different trees, right? You don't have to do all of these. Just put in like, I don't know, 5 or 6 of these, right? Maybe the first 5 columns or whichever columns you want to put in these values here and put in this inventory check level, this reorder level E12, and then do the check on multiple items. Okay. So, think about this. Instead of doing one for each line, if you just wanted to do it in one line, what would that look like? I'm not saying you would really want to implement it that way, but this is something for you to exercise using this with some Boolean, right? So you can do an and, or you can do an or. But basically, let's say I have the first 5 lines here: Golden Oak, Commoner English, Coral Bark, Crimson King, and Japanese Blooming. And in one line, I want to check if any of these are below the reorder level of 75, then I want it to display order. Okay. Like I said, this is not how you would really implement it, but this is more just a exercise for you to understand how to use like and a or inside of this conditional checking here. Okay, so I'm going to put that out there as extra credit. Okay, you can do however many. You don't have to do this whole list, right? Just do a couple of these. Hopefully that should be nice and quick. It gives you a chance to play around with Excel a little bit and play around with this conditional logic. Okay, all right. Thank you for your time today. And if there's any questions, give me a shout. Remember, for my office hours, please do send me an email. Give me a heads up before you pop in for office hours, just so that we don't have any issues with conflicts between students. And then that'll be good. And also send email to the regular email and not to the Canvas mail. Canvas mail doesn't get looked at very quickly, so you might get a longer response time or it might just get missed. Okay. All right. Thank you for your time.